What is up, everybody? Welcome back to MLB Swing for the Fences here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. It is Thursday morning, August 29th. I'm Draft Sheet, joined by Mangone, and actually it says Big T down there, but it is Travis Mangone here with me on the show from the Casa de Big T, hanging out in the war room. You got all the signed jerseys behind him. Hopefully bringing you some good luck today, Mangone. And hey, we made it. We are officially back with football tonight. 8-game college football slate. Of course, we've got plenty of baseball to talk about as well. And listen, it's been a good baseball season, but I'm happy to have football back in our lives, Mangone. How you doing on this Thursday morning?
Yeah, it's definitely been a fun baseball season. I've had a good one for sure, and glad that you have. The T today in Big T stands for Travis, not for Tony. So I'm here. Tony did have to raise the chair up. If you saw before the show, it was like I was like way down here. So he raised the chair, gave me the old JSU booster seat. So ready to roll and ready to talk some MLB. But I am excited for college football. We'll be sweating the college football. I know Tony had a tennis sweat last night, and it definitely did not go our way. So we would like that to change today. Let's have a nice sweat, maybe a baseball sweat, tennis, get some college football sweats going. Hopefully it'll be a fun day of sports.
The tennis sweat, I don't play much DFS tennis, but it reminds me a little bit of the, like a UFC type sweat, right? Where the main thing is picking, I assume, like 6 winners. Obviously there's other stuff that goes into it, and then can probably just come down to that 1v1 match at the end. Is that what Big T had going on last night, I assume?
Well, there's like 40 matches right now. It's like an insane amount, but it was the end of the night, and in the 3-3-3, in order to get, he could get first or second, and we just needed the one chick to lose and then the other guy to like win. And the one chick we were rooting on was horrendous, and then the guy we needed, he was like hurt and like terrible. So we had everything lined up for either first or second place. He still made some money, but it was supposed to be a good night, and then it just collapsed quick. So it is what it is.
Yeah, those are frustrating when it really looks like you're going to ship, and then it all goes to shit in the very
yeah. You can't miss in tennis right now because there's like 40 matches. Like it's not like when there is only like 10 like UFC. I think it is very similar to it, but with like the 40, it's like you just can't miss right now. So you got to get that 6 for sure.
For sure, makes sense. Enough tennis talk though. We'll get into baseball here. What do we have to plan for college football? Do we have a show? Do we have one yesterday? I haven't looked at the show schedule for college football. I assume we'll have cores and shows and all that stuff up. But if you know what's going on there, man, go and tell the people what's going on with college football.
I don't think we have a show today. We will have like for instance on the playbook. It's similar to the cheat sheet. Wakey, who's crushed college football, he already has all his rankings up, so his stuff is up. I'm sure Big T will get his stuff up, and Bruce. We got notes, and basically the cheat sheet and playbook are like combined now. So I love the new look of it. So check that out. I don't think there'll be a show today. I mean, who knows if something changes. We'll have shows for the other days though, like 100%. Just the weeks where it's like 3 or 4 days of games where it's like at the start of the season and the end of the season, we normally have a couple shows, but not every single day. But we'll always have a show for the Saturday slate. That'll be on Friday nights. So you'll always be able to check those out at night and then tune in on Saturday morning if you want. And of course, we'll be in the Discord with all of our updates.
Yeah, some people watching don't know who Wakey is, but I assume he's got to be one of the biggest winners in college football over the last, DFS college football since it's been. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but I think that's a pretty safe assumption. Very, very sharp guy. Awesome addition to the team.
If he's not number 1, he's like top. He's definitely top 5. You could say top 3. Like, and again, but he could even be 1.
Yeah, big winner, sharp dude, and his content's going to be fantastic. I'll certainly be checking that out before I build those college football winners tonight. But with that, let's get into this baseball slate. We've got the LA Angels, Detroit Tigers, first game on the slate. We do have 6 games on the DraftKings early slate. Going to be Cater Montero going for the Tigers. I've actually used him at times, certainly used him last time out against the White Sox. He's pitched some pretty good games, pitched well against the Yankees earlier. Certainly used him in Seattle like I do every pitcher that goes into Seattle. He put up 28 DraftKings points there. And yeah, he's been solid overall. I do think he's pitching a little bit above his head. But he does get a pretty decent matchup here against the Angels. And he's 7.5K. He's going to give you close to 90 pitches. 85 to 90 pitches is pretty much where he's been at. Seems to be his sweet spot where the Tigers want Montero to be. So I do think he's in consideration. I would not go to the Angels pitcher today, Jack Kochanowicz, not pitching well at the minor league level either. Has been knocked around when he's been given chances here at the big league level. Gets hit hard by left-handed bats, which sets up very well for this Tigers lineup. So I think Montero is a fine play. I do think both these offenses are at least interesting, especially the Tigers. I've been kind of in on this Tigers team when they face a bad right-handed starter. That's certainly the case today with Kochanowicz. So sign me up for some of these Tigers bats, specifically really the lefties, which is 7 out of the 9 hitters in the lineup. Looks like a pretty good spot for these Detroit Tigers, Van Gogh.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good spot. We talked about this Tigers lineup. I've been on a bunch of shows with you, and we've been saying how good it just been, right? I mean, the lineup has been so strong. We do not have all the lineups yet for what it's worth. Like, it's going to be like we might not even have many of the lineups on the show. We did just get the Tigers one. So it's Meadows, Carpenter, Riley Green, Jace Jung, who's a value in the 4-hole against Kochanowicz, who's not a great pitcher, Keith, Torkelson, McKinstry, Sweeney, and Dingler. I mean, this is a really solid lineup for the Tigers. Obviously, I think Jace Jung will be pretty chalky being a 4-hole hitter at third base at 2.6K. But I think it's like warranted. I would definitely consider him here. I don't think the Angels are the worst play on this slate. I'll admit, I don't know. Big T Saberson doesn't have the ownership here. I don't know why, but he likes to make his stuff nice and clean and pick his winners. So I can't see the ownership over here, but I want to know what the Angels ownership is going to be versus Montero, because Montero, like, DC, I know we've played him a bit this year, but like, you gotta think this Angels team, like, at low ownership is kind of interesting against Montero, right? I mean, they have a 4.3 run total on Saber. It's the second lowest on the slate if you take out, or third lowest if you take out the Cardinals and White Sox. But the point I'm getting at is I think any offense against Montero under owned should be in consideration, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Saber's got them all sub 10%, and like half the lineup right around 5%. So, I mean, I think that's a reasonable play. Like we said, Montero not that great. Angels lineup isn't great either, but they do have reasonable hitters at least. You know, the top 3, that Ward, Neto, Shanuel, I think it would be a top 3. So you don't need to go to the full stack here. But I can see them doing some damage. Weather-wise, this game, pretty neutral. It's not a great park to hit in Detroit, but obviously only have, so many choices on a 6-game slate. So I think the Angels are fine as a contrarian stack. I really do like the Tigers here. Ownership-wise with them, they're going to be, at least double what the Angels are, but I do like the spot much better for the Tigers. I just trust these Tigers bats more than I trust the Angels bats. Real quick on Kochanowicz, looking up the steal stuff. We got a lot of kind of rookie pitchers going here, so kind of catching up here in the morning. But I think you can run on him a little bit. Has a lot of 12 stolen bases between the minors and the major leagues. Parker Meadows has been stealing a lot. They got a little bit of speed in this lineup. So I guess all in all, I do think the Tigers bats in particular set up pretty well against Kochanowicz. Good chance they end up on my main team personally. Let's get to Texas and the Chicago White Sox up next. Nathan Eovaldi going for the Rangers here. He's had a pretty strong season for the Rangers. Has pitched well most of the way. Did miss some time with injury, but for the most part has been healthy. Give you 100 pitches. He's thrown over 100 in each of the last 2 games he's been out there against Cleveland and Minnesota. Had pretty good results in those games. But here he gets just an incredible spot, obviously, against this just dreadful White Sox lineup. There really is just almost no redeeming qualities to it. The White Sox did play a doubleheader yesterday as well, so we could see a a potential watered down lineup for them. We don't have it yet, but wouldn't be surprised after a doubleheader and an early game today if they roll out somehow an even worse lineup than they typically do. So we'll see what the White Sox, either way, even if it's the very best lineup they can put out, this is a smash spot for Eovaldi, who I think is very clearly the SP1 on this slate. That'll be reflected in ownership, I'm sure. Sabres got him at 38% owned on this slate. To me, I mean, I will gladly sign up for that number and just kind of slam in Eovaldi, honestly. I think it'll be higher than that, but regardless, I think I'm going to go to Eovaldi against the White Sox. There's not that many other great spots, in my opinion, for pitching, so I'll take what looks to me as a little bit of a free square with Eovaldi against this team. And then Nick Nastrini going for the White Sox. He's pitched 24 innings so far this season to the tune of an 8.39 ERA. Frankly, it hasn't been going that much better for him at the minor league level. Was getting knocked around in AAA as well. He has a kind of a weird split where he's actually been worse against right-handed hitters. You don't see that too often. A lot of his power has come to righties as well. So we'll see what the Rangers lineup is, but guys like Semien, Adolis Garcia, Josh Jung, Langford, all of those guys look like pretty good plays. Obviously, Seager, Smith, you can play as well. And then one big note on Nastrini, opposing base dealers are running wild on this guy, 28 for 30 on the year on the base paths. So Texas doesn't have a ton of speed, but any speed that is in that lineup certainly gets an extra boost here. And finally, a doubleheader for the White Sox yesterday. They burned through, of course, most of their already pathetically bad bullpen. Looks like a smash spot for the Rangers all the way around here to me, Mangone.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, Nastrini, if he's getting shelled, they might just leave him out there, right? Like it could be just batting practice for this Rangers team. I'm definitely in on the Rangers. They make a lot of sense. We've talked about like fading some like expensive chalk at times, like Kevin Gausman we talked about. We talked about the Stroman slate. I think that was on Sunday, and I think Gausman did pretty good. Stroman not so much. This is good chalk to play, in my opinion.
Yes.
Nate Eovaldi. Like I'm just in. I'll figure out how to, get different in other spots. And that's how we kind of talk through things on this slate. I mean, 30% ownership just seems even low. Like I would, I think it should be like 50 or 60 on this slate. It's just such a good spot for Eovaldi. So I'm in on him. I will not be playing Nastrini. Nastrini is definitely someone that I think we can target. And I'm going to play him with Texas. Texas definitely is going to be a good spot. We got to see what that lineup is going to be. We got Seager, Semien, Garcia, Jung, Smith, Lowe. I mean, up and down this lineup. I know they've struggled this year, but it is a solid lineup. You can get Jonah Hyman there who's got some power. So you got value plays, you got expensive plays. I definitely want exposure to Texas for sure today. So I'll be getting some exposure to Texas. Yes, they have one of the higher team totals on the slate, but it's a core slate. And because it's a core slate, DC, one thing that's going to be nice is we are going to get some depressed ownership on Texas. If there was no cores on this slate, Texas would clearly be the chalk. And I think we'd be having a little bit of a different conversation, but I want to get exposure to Texas. They're definitely good plays. And I don't want any exposure to the White Sox. Like one thing about the White Sox, sometimes when you're building teams, especially myself, when I play like a 5-2-1 on this specific slate, it could give me like a Lenyn Sosa at second base just because it needs a punt, right? Like let's say it's a team that goes Michael King and it doesn't go Eovaldi and it goes like a cheaper pitcher. It could give me like a Lenyn Sosa, or maybe even like a two-man of Sosa and like Brooks Baldwin, or Sosa and Corey Lee. Like, I don't want those today. Like, I would be Xing out the White Sox completely. I don't want the minis. I don't want any of them. And I know baseball's a sport where we're like willing to kind of embrace variance in certain ways and just say, well, anything could be on the winner, I want to X them out today. If they beat me, they beat me. So if there's a White Sox on the winner, DC, you won't see me at the top of the leaderboards. I'll tell you that right now. So no White Sox for me. I'll find other ways to make my teams different. So I'm fading them completely. And I know it's not a hot take, but I'm just saying if you build with an optimizer, I know it'll push them in there occasionally. So especially with something like Sabre. I'm not saying Sabre's a bad product because it's not, but it'll probably push some minis, like for sure. So I'm going to X them out. It's not for me today. There's other ways I can get unique, like playing maybe like the Angels, who we talked about at lower ownership against Montero. So And if you want the BVP call, there you go. D's got it for you. Nicky Lopez is your BVP punt of the day if you want it. Not for me, though. It's all you, D.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we know Eovaldi's going to get ownership. I'm guessing between 40 and 50% owned for Eovaldi. So, on teams that you don't have him, I'm playing my normal 5 teams today. I'll probably honestly have Eovaldi on at least 4, maybe all 5, depending on, it's hard to say for sure because we haven't seen lineups for a lot of these teams. But, if I do have a team without him, I'm okay punting with some of these super cheap White Sox, not going crazy with it. But you do get the leverage against him, too, if you're not on Eovaldi on those teams. So I think it is okay to put those guys in there. I mean, you mentioned Sabersim. There's a reason that it will put cheap White Sox in non-Eovaldi lineups, right? Because for one, the price, and 2, the leverage against him. And if he's going to fail, there's got to be someone on the White Sox who does the damage. So, yeah, I can see both ways. Obviously, just completely Xing off the White Sox is a reasonable way to go. I think we're going to have plenty of value. I mean, even look at the Tigers lineup. They've got 4 guys below 3K in their lineup. The Angels have several guys below 3K. So it's not like we're missing punts. I mean, that's just the first game on the slate. So certainly Xing off the White Sox entirely is fine. And yeah, I mean, if I'm playing one team today, it's going to be Eovaldi with 5 Rangers. Will probably be the main team in my core. And I'm glad we got Coors Field because I really like the Rangers here. I really like the Tigers as well. And Coors Field obviously will take some ownership away from, from those 2 stacks, which I'm happy about on this slate. Let's get to San Francisco and Milwaukee up next. This one in Milwaukee. Brewers are favorite here, but sitting around -135. 2 right-handed pitchers going in this one. Hayden Birdsong, rookie for the Giants. Pitched okay at the big league level. He has had a pretty easy schedule, especially as of late. But he does get another decent enough matchup here against the Brewers, who are, certainly a solid offense. But I do think 6,300 for Birdsong, I do think puts him in play. And then Aaron Savali on the other side, I think is a very strong play in this matchup. Not a great pitcher, but he is at home, and he does get this Giants team that really hasn't done much. They're also way more dangerous against left-handed pitching, so certainly good for Savali that he throws from the right side. I've got quite a bit of interest in Savali, some interest in Birdsong, and then, frankly, not a whole ton of interest in the bats from this game. I do think the Brewers stack could be a decent way to go, assuming they put out a good lineup today. Again, we don't have that lineup quite yet, I don't think. But yeah, talk to us, man, going Brewers and Giants here.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what this lineup looks like for the Brewers. I do think it could be a little watered down. Let's just talk about Savali and Birdsong. 7K and 6.3. I think those are really good price tags for cheap pitchers on this slate. It is going to be a slate where I think you're going to want one of these top end studs, and you could definitely make the case that, like, when you look at King, it's Michael King and Eovaldi, right? Those are like the 2 spends on the slate. Like, You're not just going to build all your teams with them. And there are some question marks with, the Michael King spot a little bit where, and if you want to jam in like expensive bats, like we have Texas bats we want, there's a core slate. Like, you got to consider some of these values. So I think Savali is a really strong play. He's going to go deep into the game. That's one thing we talk about with cheap pitchers sometimes is how deep can they go? Well, Savali is very well stretched out and can easily go 100 pitches. Birdsong, same with him. The issue I have with Birdsong is the matchup's definitely going to be difficult, right? I never loved targeting Milwaukee, but at the price of 6.3, the ceiling is worth taking a shot on in tournaments. So I don't completely hate it. If you told me Birdsong was like 7, 8, or 8K, I wouldn't do it, but I'm okay with it at 6.3 just because of it might be able to help you get in those big bats with a top end pitcher. So both these guys are in play, and I do think it's one of those spots where, yes, I just talked up Birdsong, but Milwaukee's got to be in the conversation too. The lineup that I'm projecting, which you've had Jackson Trio's been at the top, 4.3K. You get Bryce Terang up there, likely to be up top, and then Contreras. And then other than that, you got a lot of guys mixed in that are cheap, like Hoskins, Frelick, Perkins. This is a pretty good lineup today. You could easily play the Milwaukee Brewers with a Michael King build and a Nathan Eovaldi build, you have to consider this Brewers team. So I think it's a spot where I like Savale. I do not like the Giants. I'm not a big Giants fan, so I doubt I'll play too much of them. And then I think you got to consider the Brewers and Birdsong. I think both of them are in the conversation today as good plays. You can make the case for both sides. On the Brewers side, I think my favorite plays would be, I want to keep playing Jackson Chourio. He's just been absolutely crushing. And then I probably want to get in some of these value plays along with like one of Adames or Contreras. So that's kind of how I play the Brewers.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Again, I don't think Birdsong is all that great, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Brewers did some damage, kind of like the call on the Brewers there. I do still think you can play Birdsong just because he's 6,300. He's a reasonable starting pitcher. The matchup is fine. He certainly allows you to get in some of the big bats if you're trying to get to, frankly, we don't have that many expensive, great bats on this slate, especially if you don't love Coors Field here. But yeah, nevertheless, I do think Birdsong a pretty good way to go. Savali as well. We'll be mostly looking at the pitching in that game personally. Let's get to San Diego and the St. Louis Cardinals up next. Good pitching matchup here in St. Louis. Going to be hot and humid for this game, so at least in theory should play well for the hitters if they can get the ball in play, which frankly both these offenses are pretty good at making contact. So an interesting matchup really on both sides. Michael King has been awesome this season for the Padres, really no signs of slowing down whatsoever. He does get, like I said, a Cardinals lineup that has made some changes recently, and a lot of those changes have gotten some pretty good contact hitters into the lineup, especially against right-handed pitching. They've got, I'm seeing 5 of their 9 hitters have, long-term K rates against righties below 17%. So potentially a tough game for King to really rack up the strikeouts. I still do expect him to pitch well and limit the damage and all that, but will he pay off the 10-3 tag? I think that's harder to say. And then really kind of a similar thing for Sonny Gray, a very good pitcher, someone that we've certainly played a lot of, but he is facing a team that makes more contact than anybody. So I still think this game ends up low scoring, but I just don't know if either King or Gray is going to put up a score that you really need, especially at their price tags. King at 10.3K, Gray at 9.7. I think it's got, again, limited options on a 6-game slate, but I don't love the spot for either of these pitchers. Honestly, if this was a 10-game slate or, he had a lot of good pitching options, I would be pretty comfortable kind of crossing these guys off. I think they're way behind Nathan Eovaldi personally in terms of DFS plays today. So I probably won't end up with a ton of these guys on my own lineups. But probably won't go to many hitters here either. Honestly, this game, 6-game slate, you can't cross off any game entirely, but this game is the closest to that for me, where I really don't see a whole lot here that I really want to play. Tacos Mango in St. Louis and San Diego.
Well, we did get the White Sox lineup just now. Not as watered down as you think, but they're not good anyways. But I figured I'd mention that, but it just came across.
I don't need, I'll obviously look at it, but
yeah,
it's plenty watered down. I feel
it's just worth mentioning. Like if my boy Luis Robert was not in the lineup, you'd be like, okay, this lineup's like really bad. Yeah. So, but it's not. But this is definitely an interesting game to discuss. So, one thing to know, I see like a 7.5 total on this game, but Saber has it at like an 8.5. Like it's a pretty drastic difference between the two. So, I'll just say this. I think Michael King is a solid play. I think the matchup's hard. I think Eovaldi is definitely a way better play than Michael King. What is the ownership on King and Gray on Saber, DC? Because I think, like, if you told me Nathan Eovaldi was 50% and Michael King was 5%, I'd like King more, but that's obviously not going to be the difference. Michael King will have ownership.
They've got both King and Gray right around 20%.
Okay, yeah, I still like Eovaldi there, so I'm leaning Eovaldi over those two. But I just figured it's worth the conversation because of the point I said. If it was a 10 times difference, you'd obviously like King more. I mean,
they've got it right now at like almost exactly double Eovaldi, and I'll take the double the ownership on Eovaldi over those guys. I wouldn't be surprised if the split ended up being larger than that, but that is the number they have right now.
Yeah, I just don't think the split's going to be large enough where I care. But that's why I wanted to ask and just double check. Anyways, Michael King, solid play, not like a priority play, but he is a solid play. Like if I had a team that was Evaldi and King, would I like not want to play it? Of course not. But I'm not saying I'm prioritizing the double stud spend. I like King over Sonny Gray. I mean, one thing to note, like this Padres team just doesn't strike out much. They're hitting the ball hot. And another thing to note, DC, this team is hitting the ball well, and they're in a 95-degree weather game. Like it's hot there. I'll just say this. I think the Padres are a very good contrarian stack. I get it. I don't love targeting Sonny Gray at times, but just like any pitcher, he can blow up. And the Padres are hitting the ball well. Sonny Gray is definitely more of a ground ball guy, but like he pitches to that contact more, right? And I think the Padres are this team that could easily like just have a massive game. They've been crushing. They're going to be literally 5% or less. Don't sleep on the Padres completely. Maybe it's more of a mini stack with a Manny Machado and a Jackson Merrill, but I'm not sleeping on the Padres. I don't think they're the worst play. I do not like the Cardinals. I'll fade them. I don't think this is a spot to get there. And Dwayne's with me. Manny Machado has good numbers against Gray, and he's good against anyone, basically. So I'm down with some Manny Machado today. He's been crushing. I had him yesterday at 4% owned. I'll have him again for sure today. And I'll play some Padres. I want to see what that lineup's going to be. We'll see if they have any changes, but I'm in a little bit on the Padres. I'm out on the Cardinals completely. Don't like Gray. Don't like the Cardinals at all. And that's kind of my breakdown of this game.
Yeah, we have similar approaches. I do agree with you. If you're going to either of these offenses, it would be the Padres. But yeah, in my 5 teams, I'm definitely not going to have any full stacks of this game. Jackson Merrill Jim Parrish asked about him. I do think he's the single best play on the Padres if you're going that direction. Favorite play on the Cardinals side would be Lars Nootbaar at 3,400 in the 7 hole. But again, even those guys are not all that excited to click into my lineups on the slate. 2 games left. We go to Coors Field next. Should be pretty warm in Coors. Going to be around 80 degrees, I believe. 11.5 total here, which is crazy to see, given how bad these lineups, offenses are in general. But obviously, Coors Field trumps all, at least when it comes to the team totals. And we've got 2 rookie pitchers, Volante Belazzo going for the Marlins. His results have been fine, but man, he's like a very soft tossing right-handed pitcher. There's not very many of those guys who can have any form of long-term success at the big league level, especially when they're throwing 89 miles per hour in their rookie season, right? It's just really, really hard to overcome that lack of velocity. So I have my question marks about him, but I mean, he does outside of the ballpark, right? Which obviously really sucks. It is a really good matchup against the Rockets, who just have enormous K rates up and down the lineup. So Belazzo at 7,300, you're going to get, probably 80 to 95 pitches out of him. That's where he's been the last 4 starts. And he's pitched well results-wise in much tougher matchups than this one. Put up 25 DraftKings points against the Phillies, 7 scoreless innings. So it is certainly possible for him. Obviously, we're going to see ownership on Coors Field on the offenses. They've got both of these pitchers very, very low owned on this slate. I think they're kind of reasonable plays, to be honest. They're cheap. You get leverage. They've got a good matchup. It's just the, it's just the environment, Coors Field, obviously, that is a huge mark against them. And then the guy, actually like the Rockies pitcher better than Belazzo, Bradley Blaylock. He's actually got reasonable stuff, sits in the mid-90s, has 3 or 4 reasonably good pitches, has pitched, frankly, pretty well, especially when you look at the opponents. I mean, look who he's faced in his, they called him up in mid-August. He pitched in New York against the Yankees, in Coors Field against San Diego, and then in Arizona, who's been killing right-handed pitching over the last month or so. So he's had, 3 of the tougher matchups that you can have, and he's held his own. They did acquire him from the Brewers, I believe, at the trade deadline, and he was pitching well for the Rockies farm system before getting the call up. So long spiel on him. I guess people probably able to discern by now that I like Blaylock a little bit on the slate. Sabres got him sub 5% owned. I don't know if that'll hold true for sure, but I do think Blaylock against this Marlins team is a pretty good way to go. Obviously, a ton of risk in Coors Field, but hey, every pitcher's got some risk to them. And yeah, I'll have at least one, maybe multiple shares of Blaylock in my lineups. Maybe one of Palazzo too. I haven't decided quite yet there. Of course, these offenses are in play, but like I mentioned, I like the Rangers and I like the Tigers better. So I'll probably be under the field on the offenses here in Coors Field. What are you doing, man? Going with Rockies and Marlins in Coors.
Yeah, some of the approach will be the same. Like for instance, like the Marlins. I was talking with Big T about this last night. People will love this. He'll give the stamp of approval. The Marlins in Coors, he said, it's just a gift to be able to get them at ownership in Coors. And I tend to agree. Like I talked about not wanting to play this Marlins team in Coors. Like
they're horrible.
Yeah, like let them just get ownership. I'm perfectly fine with it. So I'm not playing the Marlins. I'll play Blaylock. You've definitely sold me on Blaylock a little bit. So yeah. I'm on the Blaylock train. I had a good night the other night when you talked me on to Mr. Madden DC. So I will be on the Blaylock train with you. I'm not going to be much on Bellozo or whatever his name is. And I understand he has upside DC. Like I don't disagree with like your take on him. I would just rather play the Marlins. And listen, this game has an 11.5 total. I'm just not playing two pitchers in an 11.5 total. I'll just hope it gets heavier on the Rockies side. And I honestly think this Rockies team, they've been putting out good lineups lately. And I shouldn't say good lineups, but better lineups than normal. The other day, I hated when Doyle got scratched, but like Blackman's been hitting the ball better. As crazy as that sounds, I'm not saying I'm rostering, 5K Charlie Blackman, but he has been hitting better. But Tovar, McMahon, Doyle, and Toglia, not like staple four. I want to have like 3 of those 4. And then from there, mix in like guys like Cave, Rogers, Stallings, and Nolan Jones. Like, I just like what this lineup's going to look like and what they've been putting out lately. We'll see if they put out that lineup that I just mentioned. But overall, I think this Rockies team is definitely one that we want to get exposure to. I'm going to hope that they put up 7+ runs, this Rockies team today. And hopefully Blaylock gets the job done. And the Marlins only put up a couple runs. So that's kind of my take on it. I want to be more on like the Rockies onslaught side. I know you talked about having a Nathan Eovaldi build with 5 Texas. Maybe I'll have a Blaylock with 5 Rockies, DC. Maybe that'll be my favorite route to go today. And I think it's interesting. We could even do I think we could get away with doing a Blaylock build with Rockies and Texas and then find another cheap pitcher to go. So I'm definitely in on this.
Wonder how we played this game with Boyden on Tuesday night. Tickets behind home plate for this game. What do you think the cheapest ones you can get?
It's a day game. So you told me, I think I heard during the show it was like $30. I'm gonna go 25. Let's go even lower than the other day.
Yeah, a bunch of low 30s, but hey, we still got a couple hours before game time. No, prices are going down, right? Nobody's like they're not in high demand. So yeah, I'm not going to go to this game, but
yeah, it's a tough day to go with everything going on. Like I'll just say this: I'm not like the CFB slate. Like we got Lindenwood on the slate and teams we've never heard of. So extra research is kind of needed today in the college football streets.
Yeah, we got 12 rows up right on the Rockies dugout for $28. Looks like the best deal there. So anyone in the Denver area who's looking to watch a high quality baseball game between the Rockies, Marlins.
There's not a lot of games to go to left, DC. You know why? Because you're not going on Thursday nights or Mondays or Sundays. So if you're going to go to a Rockies game, you got to go soon. I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Blaylock or Savale? I mean, clearly Savale is the safer play, right? I mean, no question about that. But going to be a massive ownership discrepancy between the two. Looks like Savale around 30%, Blaylock around 3 to 4%. So literally 10 times or close to it, 8, 9, 10 times his ownership for Savale. I mean, I think you can make the case that Blaylock is the better play at those numbers. Obviously, more risk, but we're trying to get to the top of the tournament, right? I mean, that's the goal. And if that's truly the goal and you're not worried about the min cash, then I personally think Blaylock is the better play at those numbers. So yeah, that's my answer to the question. I like Savali too, but I'll take a shot on probably both of these Coors pitchers, honestly.
I like the build of like Blaylock, Savali, and just like give me some bats. Like, I mean, I think it's not like we talked about how King and Gray are not going to have these like must-have performances. Listen, I like Evaldi today, but what if Evaldi gets like 22? You know what I mean? Like, and like that's not like you need to have. Could it be one of the best scores? Of course, but I don't know. That's just my personal opinion on
it. Yeah, it makes sense. I haven't built my lineups yet, so I'm not sure. You know, sometimes obviously how the lineup all comes together with the pricing and stuff matters too. And there's not, like I said, that many appealing defensive bats, especially if you're not going to Coors Field. So we'll see. But again, I don't think, going double cheap pitcher, I don't think it's the craziest thing if you do have some big bats you want to get into the lineup.
Yeah, DC, let me give Dwayne a bet. He wants the NRFIs. I never bet those, so they're not for me, but I'll give you one bet. It's a prop. I gave it to Big T yesterday. I had the under on Corbin Burns outs. We're going with under on Montero's outs at 17 and a half, I think. It's either 17 and a half or 18 and a half. I looked at it earlier and it was a good number, so you get plus money on that. I know we talked about, Montero's solid, but he's got to go 6 innings. Montero's not going 6 innings today. So
I like that you asked for an NFRI bet and you gave him one that is definitely not that.
I'm giving him a winner. That doesn't matter. We're giving the people winners, DC, and that's what I'm giving out. So there you go.
Yeah, I'd say I'll give an NRFI bet for that one. I think I like the over the half run in Padres and Cardinals, right? You probably get a pretty decent number there. Bunch of contact hitters at the top of both lineups. I bet one of those two teams pushes the run across. And I bet most people are betting the under there with two good pitchers. But give me the over NFRI in Busch Stadium tonight between Sunny
probably
Day.
Some good plus money, right? That would be my guess.
Yep, exactly. I've actually haven't looked it up, but assuming it's a decent plus number, I think that's a pretty fun bet in that particular game. Let's get to the final game. New York Mets and Arizona, not Cardinals, Diamondbacks. Football brain creeping in, man, going day by day. But it is the Diamondbacks here swinging good bats recently. They'll go up against David Peterson, who has pitched generally pretty solidly for the Mets. I do think he's pitching a little bit above his head, and I don't expect him to have, frankly, a ton of success against this D-backs team. He's not really on the list for me today at 8,300. Looks like that's the general consensus. Sabre does have him under 10% owned. And then Ryan Nelson going for the D-backs. Actually pitched really well recently. Good score in Boston against Philly, against Tampa. Monster score against the Nationals at the end of July. And he's pitching well. Not walking guys. Strikeouts are there. He gets a Mets team, obviously, that has, a lot of dangerous bats in the lineup, but I'm much more comfortable playing right-handed pitchers against them than I am lefties. So I think Nelson's got a pretty good shot to pitch well in this one. He is going to be owned. Sabre does have him as the essentially tied with Savali for the second highest owned, right around 30% on the slate. I was kind of surprised to see his ownership up that high. So usually that means that, not as interested maybe as the field, but I do like Nelson here. I do think he pitches well. Not going to go to a ton of bats. It would certainly be the D-back side of this one that I would be more likely to play. 8.5 total. D-backs are slight favorites. What are you doing, man, going with D-backs and Mets here to finish the slate?
Yeah, one thing about the D-backs, like it feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, DC, the numbers have flipped from the righty versus lefties. Like they're normally really good against lefties. They're way better against righties now, right? Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. But I mean, long term, I still think they're going to hit lefties pretty well.
Okay. I mean, the one thing about Peterson I know is one of the problems is walk issue, right? He has a huge walk issue. So in tournaments, I mean, if you tell me that about the lefty stuff, I'll still take some stabs on Arizona, mainly because the walk issue leads to tons of like, just huge run games. And I think we got to at least take a shot then. So I'll take a shot on some Arizona. We do not.
You muted yourself somehow, Mango. Yeah, you're muted.
Oh, I don't know. I probably clicked the button.
The mid speech mute doesn't happen very often, but you're on the Big T machine. It's confusing.
Big T's got this like weird mouse that like it's like a very touchpad sensitive one. So maybe I clicked something I didn't mean to when I was scrolling over on his gigantic monitor. Hashtag how rich. But I think overall, I want to stack against Peterson because I know the walks can add up, and this Diamondbacks team can definitely get there. We got guys like Gurriel is always solid against lefties. He's someone that I'll definitely want to key in on this slate. I'm sure Grichuk will probably be in there, Suarez. So definitely get to those righty heavy guys and then mix and match the values like Newman and Perdomo. They'll definitely be solid plays. And then I don't love the Mets. Like, listen, I'm not playing Rin Nelson on this slate. I know you talked about his ownership being higher, but I don't want to just like randomly play the Mets here against Nelson. I don't think it's something that I want to get to. We do not have the lineup. We won't get the lineup for a while. And this could make both of these offenses under-owned if you want to make that argument. I think I'll definitely play some Diamondbacks, not as much the Mets side.
Yeah, makes sense to me. And did you say what you're doing with Ryan Nelson? You might have said that while you were muted.
I mean, it sounded like you said he's going to have some ownership, and I don't want to do that. I know you guys talked about the Mets striking out a little bit more against teams in August, but like just at that ownership, I think I'd rather go all the way up to Evaldi or all the way down and find some options. I don't need to sit in that mid tier. And there's some big bats that I want to play, right? I want to play Texas. I want to play Colorado. I kind of want to get stabs on the Padres and Diamondbacks, and even don't mind getting, some Detroit options in there. So I know I just like basically said all the stacks I like, but what I'm getting at is I'm either going all the way up for pitchers or all the way down today, it feels like.
Yeah. Again, I do want to reiterate, Nelson has been very, very good in the second half of the year. I mean, DraftKings has the stats, the surface stats right there in the outing, last 10 outings. Actually, I don't even think that includes his last one, which he was pretty good in that one too. But yeah, a whip below 1, ERA below 3 over the last 10 outings, including some tough matchups in there. So I do think Nelson has legitimately turned a corner. It's just kind of the ownership that is a little bit higher than I would like on him. But I still do have certainly some interest there. Let's get to the good stuff here at the end of the show, Mangone, and we'll get out of here, build the lineups, and hopefully get to the winner's circle on this early slate. Back over you, favorite stack and favorite contrarian stack.
Yes, and self-made Luis Robert is in. So there you go. Just letting the people know. And but favorite stack. Favorite stack is going to be Texas on this slate, I'd say. The Rockies are probably not contrarian. They're my second favorite stack, but my contrarian stack will be the Slam Diego Padres against old Sonny Gray for a little bit of leverage. So those are the favorite stacks.
This one's easy for me. I'm focused on two teams today. I guess it would be the Tigers that are the more contrarian of the two, going up against Kachanowicz. I love those lefties. And then the Rangers are definitely my favorite stack. We did just get the lineup for them as expected. And I think they're going to put up some damage against this White Sox pitching staff today. So Rangers and Tigers for me, the two teams that I'm going to be focused on in my 5 teams. Let's get to pitching, Mangone. Who's going to be your most important pitcher today?
Yeah, most important pitcher today. I'm kind of going to give 2 just because I think Nathan Eovaldi's the best pitcher on the slate, it just is. And then you've convinced me on Mr. Blaylock. He's going to be very important for me. I think most of my builds are just going to have a lot of him. And I definitely, like I said, I want to have, it sounds like if I was playing like a 3 max today, I'd probably want to have like 2 with Eovaldi. I'd probably want like one of them to be like a cheap pitcher combination, then one with like a stud Eovaldi and like a Blaylock, and then the other one's like a double stud spin. So that's kind of how I would build today. But yeah, Blaylock and Eovaldi seem like my 2 guys that are going to be very important to me.
I got the same answer. And those are going to be the 2 guys on majority of my 5 teams. So even though you listed him, I will do so as well.
You've definitely sold me. Like the Blaylock thing is all you. It's not like I came in here knowing it was him.
He's pitched well. He's got decent stuff. He's super cheap. And he's against, I think, the most popular stack on the slate. So you get the leverage as well. If he pitches well, he's going to take down, obviously, all those Miami stacks with him. Just makes too much sense, right? I mean, it's sub 5% for this guy.
Are you going to have a cheap pitching build today, DC? Like, I think the double, like, I know we talk about this a lot. This is why I wanted to, like, sell you on it, because I think it makes a lot of sense. The bats that we have today, the Rangers you could spend for, the Padres, you could spend for Miami or the Rockies, like Mets and, like, even Arizona. Like, yes, they have values in their lineup, but, like, there's just some big bats you can go grab. I know it's not like an Aaron Judge or Ohtani slate, but I think I would look at the cheap pitching option. There's like a Savale Blaylock build is like an interesting one today.
Yeah, I haven't built my lineups yet. It was hard to do so before the show. We didn't really have any lineups to choose from. I have no problem with the cheap lineup if it works, right? If it gets the bats in there that I want to play, I'm not going to force it in. But my guess is yes, I will have a Blaylock Nelson or Blaylock Savale type of build, probably on at least one of my 5 teams.
Right. That's all I wanted. I want DC to ship today. So
that would be nice. I also would like that. Let's get to home run calls. Who's going deep, man gun?
Yeah, and Texas lineup just came out. Very good lineup. The standard one. Let's go with we'll go with one of the Texas guys to go yard. Let's go with Corey Seager. He bangs one out. Has a big home run or two.
He was going to be my answer as well, but we'll go over to the Tigers and go with Mr. Kerry Carpenter hitting second today. I think he gets one off of Mr. Kochanowicz. Uncle T's hungry. He wants some lunch.
Here's the problem, DC. I'll pull this back up on the screen. Uncle T, I have to fight 2 things. I have to fight you wanting to get lunch right now, and I have to fight Big T. When I get off this show, he's going to make fun of me that the show is less than an hour. So I'm trying to, at least make it stall, because Big T always makes fun of Mangone whenever he doesn't do a show that's like an hour long. So I'm trying my best.
Well, we're at 51 minutes here, so
we're doing good.
I think that's in the acceptable range, but maybe not. And he never makes fun of me, and I'm not.
Big T, it's one of his favorite things to do. He loves to make fun of people for not going long on shows because he likes to do like 3-hour marathons.
Yeah. Well, listen, Big T, you get on the baseball show 6 days a week, and maybe you'll have some 45-minute shows either when there's 5 games, and Mr. Mangone over here hasn't even looked at the slate yet when the show starts. So don't blame the victim over here. Let's get to favorite plays on the slate, Mangone. Who's your favorite hitter overall on this slate?
Yeah, favorite hitter overall. He should be in the lineup. Doyle, I know he got scratched the other day. What was the reason he was scratched? I don't want to give out a guy and then he's not in the lineup.
I didn't see why.
We'll play it safe and we'll go. Well, actually, I can't give out Tovar because of the positionality. I'll just stick with Doyle. It's Doyle, but if Doyle's out, we'll go with McMahon. So there you go.
All right, and I got to go to one of my 2 teams here. Give me Wyatt Langford. Looks like he's going to be the lowest owned of the Rangers bats. Got some power, got some speed. I think he gets the job done here against the White Sox. White Sox pitching staff, obviously, with Mastrini starting the game. But yeah, I guess that'll do it. We could sit here for 7 minutes in silence to fill the hour, but no, we got to build lineups, get the core plays in, all that good stuff. And yeah, start looking at college football tonight. NFL around the corner as well. Exciting time of year. Sign up over at Run Pure Sports. You can use promo code RPS15 for 15% off any weekly, monthly, or full package payment. And yeah, good luck in all your lineups, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. Hit the like button on the way out if you haven't yet done so. And yeah, we'll be back for Friday night fireworks. Members only on Friday nights. So get on over to Run Pure Sports. Join the winner's circle. That'll do it for today. He's Big T / Mangone. I'm Draft Cheat, and we are out of here.